My estranged sister tried to steal my lottery winnings, but my grandparents' lawyer had other plans. My relationship with my older sister, Amelia, has always been fraught, to put it mildly. We are only 2 years apart, but it felt like we were raised in different universes. Amelia was always the golden child. Beautiful, effortlessly popular, straight-A student, athletic. She seemed to excel at everything without even trying. I, on the other hand, was the quiet, artistic one, always a little bit in her shadow. My parents, while never overtly saying it, definitely favored her. Her achievements were celebrated with lavish parties and expensive gifts, while my smaller victories were met with a polite nod and a suggestion that I try to be more like Amelia. This dynamic festered throughout our childhood and adolescence, creating a deep-seated resentment in me that I tried desperately to hide. The turning point, or perhaps the breaking point, came during our college years. I had managed to get into my dream art school on a partial scholarship, something I was incredibly proud of. Amelia, meanwhile, had gone to a prestigious Ivy League university, also on a scholarship, but hers was a full ride due to her academic prowess and a myriad of extracurricular activities. The summer after my freshman year, I was working 3 part-time jobs to save up for my tuition and art supplies, while Amelia was interning at a high-powered law firm in New York City, living in a swanky apartment paid for by our parents. One evening, my grandmother, who had always been my biggest supporter and confidant, called me. She sounded distressed. She told me that our parents had decided to use the money they had saved for my college education to pay for Amelia's upcoming study abroad trip to Europe. It wasn't that Amelia needed the money. Her internship paid well, and she had ample savings. It was a symbolic gesture, another way to prioritize her over me. My grandmother was furious on my behalf and, in a fit of righteous anger, called our parents to confront them. The argument that ensued was brutal, and I only heard snippets, but the essence was clear. My parents believed Amelia deserved every advantage, and I should be grateful for whatever scraps I received. That night, I cried myself to sleep, a deep, hollow ache in my chest. The next morning, my grandmother arrived at my doorstep, bags packed. She announced that she was moving in with me and that she would help me pay for my tuition, even if it meant dipping into her retirement savings. I was overwhelmed by her kindness, but I couldn't let her do that. Instead, she helped me apply for more scholarships and grants, and together we mapped out a plan for me to finish my degree debt-free. It was a tough few years, but with her unwavering support, I managed to graduate with honors. Amelia, of course, thrived. She graduated at the top of her class, landed a prestigious job at a top-tier law firm, and within a few years, was making an impressive salary. Her life was a parade of promotions, fancy vacations, and designer clothes. My parents couldn't have been prouder. My own career as an artist was slowly building momentum, but it was a much slower, more arduous path. I was exhibiting in smaller galleries, teaching art classes, and selling commissions, but I was far from Amelia's financial success. The gap between us, both financially and emotionally, widened with each passing year. Our interactions became strained, punctuated by thinly veiled condescension from her and polite, distant replies from me. Eventually, we just stopped talking, a silent agreement to let the chasm between us grow into an unbridgeable canyon. My grandmother passed away a few years after I graduated. Her death left a gaping hole in my life. She was my rock, my biggest cheerleader, and the only person in my family who truly saw me. Her will was simple. Her modest house, her savings, and her antique jewelry were to be divided equally between my sister and me. My parents, of course, found fault with this, believing that Amelia, with her more important life and greater financial needs, a twisted logic, if ever there was one, should have received a larger share. I, however, honored my grandmother's wishes, and we each received our rightful inheritance. I used my share to renovate my small art studio and to set aside a small emergency fund. Life continued, quietly. I focused on my art, found love with a wonderful man named David, who appreciated my artistic spirit, and slowly built a life that felt authentic to me. Amelia, I heard through mutual acquaintances, had become engaged to a wealthy doctor and was living an even more extravagant life. I wished her well, from a distance, and genuinely hoped she was happy. Then came the lottery. It was a complete fluke. I rarely played, but one day, on a whim, I bought a quick pick ticket at the grocery store. I completely forgot about it until a week later, when I saw a news report about a winning ticket sold at that very store. My heart pounded as I dug through my purse, found the crumpled ticket, and checked the numbers. I had won. Not a mega jackpot, but a substantial sum, $5 million after taxes that I was stunned. Disbelief, then exhilaration, then a wave of fear washed over me. This kind of money could change everything, both for the better and, potentially, for the worse. The first person I told was David. He was overjoyed, and we spent hours dreaming about what we would do: buy a bigger house with a dedicated studio space for me, travel, invest for our future, and contribute to charities we cared about. We decided to keep the news quiet for a while, just until we had everything sorted out with financial advisors and lawyers. We wanted to be smart about it, not let the money overwhelm us. Of course, secrets have a way of getting out. One evening, about a month after my win, my mother called me. This was unusual. Our calls were typically limited to holidays and brief updates. She sounded unusually cheerful, almost giddy. She started asking about my art, my life, then subtly shifted the conversation. "You know," she said, "I heard something interesting the other day, about a big lottery winner in your area." My blood ran cold. She was too specific, too eager. I knew instantly that the news had somehow reached her. That I tried to play it cool, feigning ignorance. "Oh, really? That's exciting for whoever won." My mother chuckled. "Don't play coy with me, dear. We know it was you." My heart sank. I asked her how she knew. She confessed that one of her friends, who worked at the grocery store where I bought the ticket, had overheard me talking to the manager when I was verifying the win. The friend, recognizing me, had then casually mentioned it to my mother. The grapevine, apparently, was alive and well, and dangerously efficient. The next few days were a whirlwind. My phone rang off the hook with calls from my parents, distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years, and even people I barely knew from high school. Everyone wanted to reconnect, to celebrate with me. It was nauseating. David and I quickly realized we needed to get ahead of this. We hired a reputable financial advisor and a lawyer who specialized in protecting lottery winners from exactly this kind of predatory attention. Then came the call from Amelia. It was the first time we had spoken in years, and her voice, usually so composed and confident, was laced with an unfamiliar sweetness that set my teeth on edge. She started by reminiscing about our childhood, about all the fun we used to have, memories that, for me, were mostly colored by her superiority and my feelings of inadequacy. She then launched into a long, elaborate story about how difficult her life had become. Her husband, the wealthy doctor, had apparently made a series of disastrous investments, leaving them in significant debt. Their lavish lifestyle was now a burden, and they were struggling to maintain appearances. She spoke of the unfairness of life, how she had worked so hard, only to be met with such misfortune. I listened in polite silence, my gut churning. I knew where this was going. Finally, after a lengthy monologue of self-pity and thinly veiled accusations against her husband, she dropped the bombshell. "Sister," she said, her voice dripping with artificial vulnerability, "I know you've been so lucky, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't absolutely critical, but could you help us out? Just a little bit? We need about $1 million to get back on our feet. You have so much now, and we are family, after all." $1 million. Just like that. As if it were spare change. I was floored, but not surprised. This was Amelia's modus operandi, always taking, always expecting. I calmly told her that I needed to consult with my financial advisor and my lawyer before making any decisions about my new wealth. I wasn't going to be guilt-tripped into giving away a substantial portion of my winnings, especially to someone who had never shown me an ounce of genuine support or kindness. This response, apparently, was not what Amelia expected. Her sweet facade instantly crumbled. "What do you mean? Consult with them? You're family. You should just help me. You owe me this, after all the sacrifices I made for you growing up." I bristled. "What sacrifices, Amelia? The ones where you constantly reminded me of my shortcomings and enjoyed being the golden child." "That's not fair," she shrieked. "I always looked out for you. And anyway, I deserve this more. I've worked so hard for my career, for my family, for everything. You just got lucky. You don't know how to handle this kind of money." The conversation devolved into a full-blown argument, with Amelia accusing me of being selfish, ungrateful, and a terrible sister. She even brought up my grandmother's inheritance, claiming that I had manipulated our grandmother into giving me an equal share. The sheer audacity of her accusations was breathtaking. I eventually hung up, shaking with anger and a profound sense of sadness. This was my sister, the person I had shared a childhood with, reduced to a venomous, entitled stranger. The next day, my parents called, echoing Amelia's sentiments, though in a slightly more toned-down manner. They tried to appeal to my family loyalty, my moral obligation to help my sister in her time of need. They even suggested that it was God's will that I won the lottery so I could bless Amelia with my good fortune. I patiently explained that I was still processing everything and that I wouldn't be making any hasty financial decisions. This only frustrated them further, and the calls became increasingly frequent and aggressive. David, bless his heart, was my rock throughout this entire ordeal. He listened patiently, offered practical advice, and reminded me that I had every right to my money and to choose how I used it. He helped me see through the emotional manipulation and reminded me of all the times Amelia and our parents had treated me dismissively. Then came the registered letter. It was from a law firm, not Amelia's, but one I didn't recognize. I opened it with trepidation. It was a formal legal notice, informing me that Amelia intended to pursue legal action against me to claim a portion of my lottery winnings. The letter cited a fabricated history of financial hardship on her part, coupled with my alleged moral obligation as a sibling to contribute to her welfare. It even twisted the narrative of our grandmother's inheritance, claiming that I had somehow unduly influenced her. I was floored by the brazenness of it all. This wasn't just begging anymore. This was an outright legal attack. I immediately called my lawyer, Mr. Henderson, and explained the situation. He listened calmly, then chuckled. "Don't worry," he said. "We've seen this many times. People tend to lose their minds when large sums of money are involved." He assured me that Amelia's claim had no legal merit and that we would fight it vigorously. A few weeks later, we received another registered letter, this one even more perplexing. It was from a different law firm, a very old and prestigious one, the kind that handled the affairs of old money families. This letter, however, was addressed to both Amelia and me. It stated that due to recent events, specifically the unfortunate legal dispute regarding my lottery winnings, there was an urgent matter regarding the estate of our late grandmother that needed immediate attention. We were both summoned to a meeting at their offices the following week. I was confused. My grandmother's estate had been settled years ago. What could possibly be urgent now? I called Mr. Henderson, who was equally puzzled but advised me to attend the meeting. He offered to accompany me, and I readily accepted. The day of the meeting arrived, and I walked into the opulent law offices with Mr. Henderson by my side, a knot of anxiety in my stomach. Amelia was already there, looking impeccably dressed and radiating an aura of self-importance. She gave me a frosty glare but said nothing. Our parents were also present. Looking nervous and uncomfortable, we were ushered into a grand conference room. Seated at the head of the polished mahogany table was an elderly gentleman with a kind but stern face. He introduced himself as Mr. Abernathy, a senior partner at the firm, and explained that he had been our grandmother's primary estate lawyer for over 40 years. Mr. Abernathy began by stating that he was privy to certain confidential instructions from our grandmother that were to be revealed only under specific circumstances. He then produced a sealed envelope, intricately inscribed with our grandmother's handwriting. My parents exchanged worried glances. Amelia, however, looked impatient. "As you all know," Mr. Abernathy began, "your grandmother was a woman of immense foresight and deep love for her family. She was also deeply concerned about fairness and ensuring that all her loved ones were treated justly." He paused, his gaze sweeping over each of us. It was her express wish that her final will and testament would ensure that her true intentions were carried out, especially concerning her granddaughters. He then proceeded to explain that while the initial distribution of her modest estate had been handled as per her instructions at the time of her passing, there was a secondary, sealed codicil to her will. This codicil, he explained, was only to be opened if certain conditions were met. And those conditions, he revealed, were precisely a legal dispute between her granddaughters over financial matters, particularly one involving a significant windfall. My eyes widened. My grandmother, ever the wise and observant woman, had clearly anticipated something like this. She had seen the writing on the wall, the simmering resentment, the potential for conflict over money. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Mr. Abernathy's lips as he continued. "Your grandmother, in her immense wisdom," he said, "was aware of the dynamics within your family, particularly the disparity in opportunities and perceived favoritism that existed. She also understood the potential for financial windfalls to exacerbate these issues." He then took a deep breath. Therefore, in this codicil, she made an additional provision. She established a substantial trust, funded by an offshore account that had been secretly managed for decades, unbeknownst to anyone but myself and her. Amelia gasped. My parents looked utterly bewildered. My heart began to pound. This trust, Mr. Abernathy continued, is to be distributed entirely to her granddaughter, my name, with one explicit stipulation. He looked directly at Amelia, his gaze unwavering. The stipulation is that if, at any point, her sister, Amelia, were to initiate any form of legal action against her regarding inherited wealth or any significant financial gain, then the entirety of this trust, valued at, he consulted a document, $10 million, would be immediately transferred to my name. A stunned silence filled the room. Amelia's face drained of color. My parents looked like they had been hit by a truck. My own jaw had probably dropped to the floor. $10 million. My grandmother had been secretly wealthy all along, and she had used that wealth as a safeguard, a powerful shield against exactly this kind of predatory behavior. Furthermore, Mr. Abernathy added, his voice firm, the codicil explicitly states that Amelia will receive nothing from this particular trust, regardless of any future circumstances, if she pursued legal action against her sister. And as of yesterday, when your lawsuit was officially filed, he said, looking pointedly at Amelia, those conditions were met. The color returned to Amelia's face, but it was a deep, furious crimson. She sprang to her feet, her chair scraping loudly across the floor. This is outrageous. This is illegal. She manipulated Grandma. This is completely unfair, she shrieked, her voice cracking with rage. Mr. Abernathy remained impassive. Madam, every aspect of this codicil was meticulously planned and executed with the utmost legal precision. Your grandmother was of sound mind, and her intentions were crystal clear. Your legal action, in fact, was the very trigger for this provision. My parents, who had been sitting in stunned silence, finally found their voices. My mother began to cry, wringing her hands, while my father stammered, But we didn't know. We would never have allowed this. Mr. Abernathy merely raised an eyebrow. Your grandmother was quite specific that this information was to be kept strictly confidential until such a circumstance arose. She understood the potential for undue influence or attempts to circumvent her wishes. Amelia, still fuming, turned her venomous gaze on me. You knew about this, didn't you? You planned this with her. You're a conniving, selfish witch. I simply stared back at her, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside me. Vindication, sadness, a profound appreciation for my grandmother's foresight, and a touch of pity for Amelia's self-inflicted downfall. I had no idea, Amelia, I said, my voice steady, but I'm certainly glad Grandma did. Mr. Henderson, my lawyer, finally spoke up, addressing Mr. Abernathy. So, to be clear, the current legal action brought by Ms. Amelia against my client is now entirely moot, and has, in fact, triggered the full distribution of this $10 million trust to my client. Precisely, Mr. Abernathy confirmed. And I believe it's safe to say that Ms. Amelia's legal team will be withdrawing their claim shortly, once they are made aware of these developments. Amelia slumped back into her chair, defeated, her face a mask of bitter resentment. My parents tried to approach me, their expressions a mixture of apology and desperation, but Mr. Henderson subtly stepped in front of me, signaling that it was time to leave as we walked out of the law firm, leaving Amelia and my parents in the stunned aftermath. I felt a sense of liberation I hadn't experienced in years. My grandmother, even in death, had protected me, not just from financial exploitation, but from the emotional manipulation and unfairness that had plagued my relationship with my sister for so long. She had ensured that I was finally seen, valued, and justly rewarded. The fallout was immediate and dramatic. Amelia's lawyers, upon learning about the codicil and the trust, dropped her case like a hot potato. They clearly understood that pursuing it further would be not only futile but professionally embarrassing. My parents, after countless attempts to reach me and an outpouring of tearful apologies that felt more like self-preservation than genuine remorse, finally understood that their favoritism had ultimately cost them dearly. They lost their golden child to her own greed and self-entitlement, and in doing so, had completely alienated me. I, with David's unwavering support, went on to use my lottery winnings and my grandmother's incredible gift to establish a foundation that supports young artists from disadvantaged backgrounds, a cause I knew my grandmother would have wholeheartedly championed. I bought a beautiful home with a spacious art studio, traveled the world, and continued to create art that truly spoke to my soul, and my relationship with Amelia and my parents never recovered. The chasm that had always existed between us became an uncrossable void. But strangely, I found peace in that. My grandmother's final act wasn't just about money. It was about justice, about recognizing worth, and about creating a future where I was finally free from the shadows of a painful past. It was a final, perfect gift, and one I would cherish forever.